StreamYard has gotten extremely petty. Peace, y'all. Welcome to Cosmic Nobodies Conversation. I haven't been on StreamYard a little bit, so I ain't been paying StreamYard. And I didn't realize how petty they was becoming with the free situation. You can't even play videos up here anymore. That's crazy work. Okay, cool. Learn something new every day. Anyway, so I have a really awesome guest up here. This individual, he is a podcaster, he's a community builder, he is an educator. He is a producer. He is knowledge. He is love. He is abundance. He is infinite. He is all these things. I'm going to bring him on so he could talk about the new volumes that he has added to his collection of the Voices of Diaspora. This is about like 9 volumes plus a couple other ones that don't have volume in the title. So we looking at like what is this, like 13 books at this point, 13, 14 books at this point. And they've been very helpful for me, homeschooling my child and inspiring him to become an entrepreneur and getting into being an innovator and a communicator and things of that nature. And, now that I see that there's new books, there's new stuff for us to read together just in time for MLK Day. Today is also the day of Knowledge Born, so we in divine alignment to have the brother Knowledge Born up here. We have, we know Black History is every day, but the official month is coming up. So if you haven't already invested in this collection of books, you definitely want to, and I definitely want to come over here, have a seat, and listen, because I got some questions and we're going to get into it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Knowledge Born Allah to the stage. Here we are. Here we go. Yeah, I just knew I was Peace. How you feeling today?
How you feeling? How you healing? Okay.
Oh, everything is great. I ain't gonna hold you. Today was kind of like a very groggy day. Feeling real sleepy, real heavy, but it's all right.
It's the 19th. You know what I'm saying? You born on you incarnated in this physical realm on the 19th. So every 19th, you know what I'm saying, got something to do with what you doing, and it got everything to do with knowledge born. So we're gonna make knowledge born in no living of time here with the cosmic
Yeah,
nobody. Uh,
definitely.
trying
So
to get my screen thing together. I don't know what's happening right
yeah, the technology trying to get in the way, but it's okay. We are here, and we're gonna talk about it either way. Um, I really love these books that you've created. And I wanted to get into like, what was your inspiration on writing these books? I even like the cover on that one. Ooh.
That's you. You ain't see yourself? Come
Yeah, I
on.
see.
You got the guitar. Come on. You doing it all right there. You understand what I'm saying? So when you look at that, like tell me this ain't cosmic nobodies. Tell me this ain't, divine alignment. All, from the root to the crown. You understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So pictorial images that excite the mind and enthrall the mind, uh our young seekers. You understand what I'm saying? So
mhm.
which one of your sons is reading the book? Miles
My
or
youngest, Miles.
So I wrote it for Miles. You understand what I'm saying? Because he has an inquisitive mind and he about his paper. You understand? Like, so
Listen.
I don't want him to be out here circumnavigating and circumambulating around in the world without divine guidance in regards to what are some of the things that he needs to look at in regards to what he's doing. Because he's going to naturally do it anyway, right? So
Mhm.
giving him as much front loaded information in that regard for what, you know, one of the things he's looking to do. You know, you were on Killer Freeze podcast with me, a few times, and I was on with Nero the Four Fuji recently, and I asked her who she writes for. You know, who's the picture that she has in her mind when she writes? And she described, her particular target audience. And, I shared mine background in regards to who I write for in that same notion, right? So
Mhm.
a little young boy, about 7, 8 years old, young black God out here with the mind of God, but the physical stature of a boy, right? So they look at him and they look past him and they look over him. And in his mind, every person that he meets, he can tell them their future. He can tell them their destiny, right? But they look at this little kid, like, what this kid know? And every time he interacts with one of them, regardless to how true it is, how true a voice it is, they say, "Oh, that's not how it works in reality." So they're striving to take the thing from the space of the infinite and relegate it to physical reality, quote unquote. And he gets dissatisfied. And after he gets dissatisfied, here comes the question: what am I doing here?
Mm.
What am I here for? So once he gets dissatisfied, now he starts to retreat inward and say, "What am I doing here? These people don't want what I have to give them." You understand what I'm saying? And it's for them. It's not for me. It's
Right.
for them. So, these writings, when I picture him and I see him, I'm like, this is what you're here for. Because of who you are and what you represent, this is what has been produced already. So if Miles's gift is to be an entrepreneur, is to be a boss and boss up, a boss has to have workers. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? So your goal in the space of entrepreneurialism, one is to solve a problem, two is to put some people on. You understand what I'm saying? So he has to know how to be able to take what's in his head, that infinite thought, and relegate it to 3D in a manner that makes this place better. So the first problem he has to solve is how to get that thing out of the realm of the infinite and put it into practice, into reality. So that becomes his process. Now, that doesn't come without challenge, that doesn't come without pushback, that doesn't come without any of these other things. So now he has to be resilient enough to let people know about what they're going to be doing in the future, despite the present circumstances that they're operating in. So you have to see beyond that circumstance and be true voice of what you see and hold on to that. They call that a visionary, right? Call
Mhm.
that a visionary. Everybody has sight, but not everyone has vision. So when I envision this young man, this is his path, this is his goal, this is his destiny, this is uh, his dream. His dream and his vision involves seeing people with the highest and best versions of themselves. Sound like God to me, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So God helps those who help themselves, though. So these writings are there to give him evidence, and he has parents, and he has grandparents, and he has great grandparents. He has aunts, he has uncles, he has cousins, he has siblings. He has a whole community around him that can glean from this experience that he gets reaffirmed on his path based off of these writings. So this is a whole story based around one person, and this one person and their story leads to all of these other stories. I'm like, yo, so who
Mhm.
your music for? My music for everybody. Nah, everybody won't get it. You
Right.
made it from one person. You made it from one person or a couple of people, literally. It's like, all right, initially you made it for yourself. You're like, yo, I just, what I'm saying, I like the music and I want it to be blah blah. This is a gift. This is how your story starts. This is your origin story, right? So
Right.
volume 9 in particular, Voices of the Diaspora, the newest one that I'm premiering over here with the Cosmic Nobodies Conversations. You understand what I'm saying? With Sunshine on the air. Come on, give it up. You understand? It's
Thank
Voices
you.
of the Diaspora, volume 9, mastering the craft of telling your own black story. You don't need to go to no religious institution for them to tell you about you. Come on, man.
Mhm.
You go to places outside of self for universality. you go to self for real.
Yes.
You
And I
find the commonalities. Go ahead, pardon me. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut your
Yeah.
wisdom. And I got some questions. Hey, you answered a lot of them already, but I wanted to get into like the formula, the format that you utilize to create this book because y'all, this ain't just oh you reading like you being lectured or talked at. This book is interactive. This book calls on you to take action steps, to think critically. It's broken down in such a beautiful way to where even reading it with my son and when we had your volumes 1 through 5, that was when he was like about like 8 or 9. He's about to be 12 now. So even reading those, like it was captivating. It was keeping his attention because there's photographs in here of the people, so he was able to like visually identify, this is who this is. And it was also giving him like moments to think critically, like, okay, not only are we talking about this person, but we're talking about the period that this person was creating or innovating or business building, doing these things, what the social climate was like, what the economic climate was like, what the community was like, to give you a real perspective of the level of support and also the level of resistance that was going on at that time, which is very important because we live in a world now and it's not too much new under the sun, if there is anything new under the sun, right? And it can be very discouraging, and this is why I like that you wrote the one book that you did about the voices of, let me take my notes. I want to say it was, like volume 8, or maybe it's this one. Oh yes, this one, volume 9, Mastering the Craft of Storytelling, where you get into the importance of telling our story and utilizing social media and social media activism and things like that. And even in this space and time with this that you're speaking on, I thought was so powerful because we're still dealing with that level of opposition that people have been dealing with since the beginning of time. We have our leaders, which you did a book on that too, our revolutionary leaders. That was what book was that one? that was like book 4, I think.
Right.
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like it's like it's your own people that's going against you, is saying you crazy and we don't really want what you want, and you're not speaking for all of us, and we're actually comfortable with the way things are, and we don't want these kind of changes. We really just want some money. Like, people wasn't really trying to break out of that being a part of the rat race dynamic. And even now it's kind of like, oh, why are you in your 30s still rapping? Or why are you still making art at your big age? You need to go get a job. Or, why are y'all doing this stuff on the internet? This not for the internet, this, that, and the third. And it's like, it's important. The Akashic records, once upon a time it was writings on a stone wall. And I'm pretty sure them people were seeing crazy then. The writing on papyrus. And I'm sure those people were seeing crazy then. And now it's putting it in these organites that we walk around, in our hands. And it's being seen as crazy now. So I think it's very powerful that you did that. All that to circle back to, what was your influence for this formula that you put into the book, giving people action steps and helping people to think critically, where they're just not reading, but they're learning how to digest what they're reading, how to implement and applicate what they're reading in such a way. I think that's really dope that you did that.
See, look, I hear this educator slash psychiatrist slash psychologist slash astronomical astrological mastermind over here. Delving deep into the realm over here. Yes, my mother was the motivation. My mother was the motivation, and she told us, she equipped us with the greatest story ever told. Your naming story and your birth story begins the origin of your incarnation. My mother told me my birth story, and when she told me my birth story, it changed the trajectory on how I see self and how I saw the world.
Mhm.
So that was a catalyst. And then she told all myself and all my siblings, the name story. like who you're named after, blah blah blah, this, right? So all these things were there, right? So it gave us, keys. We didn't seek outside, validation in regards to who we were, who we were and what the family we were a part of. And then she told us about our family, told us about, aunts and uncles and grandmother and grandfather, all of those, critical elements of identification, right? So the motivation for these volumes is to get us back in love. Like I want a love affair because one of the characters who wrote the books, I can't recall her name, but she said every story is a love story. When you study cinema, they say every story is a love story. So if you
Mhm.
look at the cinematic space, they have you fall in love with a character, whether you hate them or you love them. It's the same energy. Tariq from Power, Michael Rainey Jr. was an accosted young man. You understand what I'm saying? In the world
Mhm.
of the TV, it was like, Tariq, I hate you. I hope you die. You let your sister get killed. I was like, whoa, this is a kid doing a role. Like when he was in barbershop, you didn't care nothing about him.
Right.
He was a kid. Like so he made an impact. And one of the things that 50 Cent said was like they hated him so much that I had to hone in on that. 50 Cent saying that somebody hates a character so much he had to hone in on it, right? Isn't that his moniker? Wasn't he a kid coming in the industry, battling against the industry? So the
Mhm.
David versus Goliath sort of situation creates a space where you have a main character and you have supporting characters. So what the Power series did in the realm of storytelling was showed you main character and the ability to shift the dynamic from the main character or main characters to the supporting characters, and then take one of those characters and make them the centerpiece and build a supporting cast around them. And then take one of those and then it continues. The saga continues, right? So the ability to be able to weave that into the story, you know that your listener, you know that your reader wants to hear something that's related to them, something that they're going through, right? You do the astrological, astronomical, what's today's mathematics and all of that. So once you start talking about signs, they don't hear any other sign other than what their sun sign is, right? They're like, oh,
Right.
so what about I'm a Pisces, you know, oh, that's true about Pisces. Yep, yep. We be acting like that sometimes. We be forgetful. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't tell me nothing. I've been not forgotten. You know what I'm saying? So, that's the space where we working in regards to where that main character energy. I won't say syndrome because a syndrome you can get over it. The energy is there before you and after you. So
Right.
main character energy in that regard to be able to tell that story. So my mother had the ability to be able to take you out of the, you know, seven siblings that you have and center it on you to tell you listening to everybody else's story, but you're like, what's up with mine? What's up with mine? So my mother was the motivation to be able to pull out of everybody else on the planet, pull black people in general, and then young black people in specific. Because everybody learn all this stuff, and then you meet their children. There's they're not reflective of it. You understand what I'm saying? You go through this consciousness and this transformational awakening and all that, and your children be like, I don't want to hear that junk. You understand what I'm saying? Give me my ham sandwich, fam. You understand? Like you a vegan. I'm not a vegan. Go ahead and
Right.
eat the ham sandwich. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, and unless you create an environment that they're involved in, and you're not dictating to them in a totalitarian, you know, tyrannical sort of manner. You plant the seeds and allow the seeds to bear fruit in them,
Right.
in your relationship with them, and all of those things. And that's what my mother did. Religion and spirituality was a course of study for us, and we studied it all. And whatever you gravitated towards, that's what you chose. So again, this became a part of your story. So how do you put that all together and package it with your gifts, your talents, and skills that God gave you to be able to share with the world? So this is what this volume is. basically centered on in essence, but all the volumes, that's the meaning, right? So if you're a revolutionary, I don't need you being a plumber. I need you cultivating that revolutionary mind. You understand what I'm saying? If you're a world leader, I
Mhm.
need you in the world leader zone. If you're a scientist, if you deal with technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics, that's where I need you at. I need you over there. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so you don't have to try to become something. You're already that. Now you're supplied with the proper resources and guidance that you need for that to flourish. So again, my mother was the motivator, and she still is the motivator, and she continues to teach me from the realm of the unseen. And me walking in this path with her, she dealt with the science of healing, the science of iridology, and I've seen it work, right? I'm here because of it, right? So my reciprocal space in that regard is to give back with unlocking those things that were hidden from us within us in regards to our story.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. And I said, everybody has their place. And if that's, if it's something that you're here to do, I don't want you here trying to, I guess, fit into the status quo, the things that we are being indoctrinated or trained to be, and again, that's something that we, still experience today is you have these people that, are geared towards being innovators and scientists and mathematicians and all these different things. And you have these people in society that are like, oh no, I don't want you doing that. I need you to be a carpenter, a plumber. I need you to, get a job. And it's like majority of these jobs are not conducive to the environment or the community. It's a bunch of consumerism. So, that rhetoric is, I don't know. I don't know what to call it, but it's kind of crazy, to try to cut people's wings so they can go sell you some stuff instead while working for somebody else. But lo and behold, somebody finds reason to do it or be it. And so, once again, thank you for writing these books and speaking on the different entrepreneurs that, not just the ones of the past, but the ones that are still here today, giving them their flowers of today. Also, speaking on, especially in this book, Volume 9, you even speak on some of the people that have a voice in media and are using their voice in media to shed light on um, the experiences of Black people in the past and experiences of Black people in the present. And it's not always gloom and doom. Sometimes it's just like everyday living. Everything is not always gloom and doom with Black people. We celebrate, we have love, we have life, we have festivities, we have all these other things going on too. I also like what you wrote about in here, where you talk about the false narratives that are given. And could you expound a little bit on that, on some of the false narratives you have witnessed and things of that nature? And if you want to shout out some platforms that's doing it, you know what I'm saying?
This is one that that exposes the secrets, right? Shout out to the Avengers. They got a song called "Expose." We expose secrets, right? Exposing the secrets, and they did it in front of the Georgia Guidestones before they got blown up. You understand what I'm saying? So again,
Mhm,
even the fact that they were out there, you know, uh, in that level of courageousness, you think about it, right? So there's nothing like discovering who you are, right? I'll go back to that movie Damien, right? And he was a kid and he, witnessed all of this stuff going on, blah, 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 blah. The
mhm,
day he found out who he was like the greatest day of his life. They have the adage where, 2 days are important, the day you were born and the day you find out why, everybody's pushing that around, right? So the day he found out who he was the day that he grew into the fullness thereof of what he could be. Not who he was, what he could be, and what he could do with that, right?
mhm,
So you saw the little thing. You put the mirror to the back of his head, and the scene he's like, "Oh no, why?" The next scene, he had all black on, and he was getting busy. You understand? So it was different. It was different, right? So we looked at the neophyte, right, in the Matrix, and was like, what's he doing? He's starting to believe. There's a process, right? You don't just arrive at knowing, right?
Mhm.
So that we became a catalyst, and it became the process of that sort of understanding, right? So the false narrative exists for one of the express purposes of you learning discernment. So the false narrative is just like, all right, um, the earth is round or the earth is flat, right? You get to choose which one of these narratives are false. Once you know, or you have evidence to support whatever the blah 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 is, right? So the false narratives come in for your discernment to be able to be tested, right? People love lies, sunshine. They do. They love them.
Mhm.
They be looking for them. They be like, where my haters at? How my haters feeling this morning and all this other BS, right? They love lies, right? They
Mhm.
they disregard the lovers, right? Hey, shout out to my lovers. Shout out to my loved ones, those who love me. They tried and tested. How y'all feeling this morning? Y'all want something from the store? You understand? Like, the little
Right.
thing that they had, y'all want something from the store. So you look at those who lie and those who are miscreants and those who have hateful energy towards you, and you embrace them and give them most of your time and their attention, and the people you love, they're neglected because you are preoccupied by giving that false narrative, or those who speak to put lies and false narratives on you, all of the credence, right? So recently, I'm sure you might be aware, there's a guy who claims to be a Black Panther out of Philly, right?
Mhm.
And there was a whole tirade with everybody and their mama saying, "Oh, he's a fake Panther, he's an agent, and blah blah blah, and this and this. Oh, he got a record and all this other stuff, right?" So the false narrative had all of the weight and the attention. I had yet to see anybody talking about what the Black Panther Party for Self Defense stood for, and how there some people that are present today, right? So they might have shouted out a couple of people. One of my generals was shouted out, King Samir, honest to the God, as it should be.
Mhm.
But the credence should not be to make sure that the false narrative gets all of the light
Right.
and the righteous, fall by the wayside. If that didn't come out, they wouldn't even be talking about King Samir. You understand what I'm saying? And they should be. They should be talking about him. You understand what I'm saying? And men and women like him because he's not an anomaly. He's part of a retributionary collective. You see what I'm saying? So why would we give such time and energy to something that's false, and we know that it's false, or seeking to prove it false, versus those spaces on what we know? So we address the false narrative aspect as a set ability to be able to work through those issues that you have with discernment, right? So we can't love the lie and hate the truth. Do I look big
Mhm.
in this shirt? Yeah, you look big as hell in that shirt. You understand what I'm saying? Well, why you gotta say it like that? No, no, no. You look good in that shirt, son. We out. And you out the whole time. And all we doing is talking ish about you and that your big body in that little shirt. When we could have just told you the truth.
Right.
And then you could have been accepting of the truth. It's like, nah, fam, I'm gonna take my little brother's shirt off and put a shirt on that's appropriate to my belly. Or I'm gonna do something about this belly so I don't be looking like I got six stomachs in this shirt. You know what I mean? So that space of truth, that space of discernment, right? So, you know, looking at those narratives and how you address those narratives. So relating it back to the book comes at a place that's like an addendum or an addition to volume six when you're talking about changing the narrative, right? Changing the narrative, and the narrative changes now. So now with what you do, what you know, with the skills you possess, all of those things in regards to that, what are you doing to change the narrative? Are you supporting the false narratives and making them true? Or are you actively working in a counter action space to be able to make the truth be more attractive than the lie? And you can do that with your gifts. You can do that with your music. You can do that with your books. You can do that with your garden. You can do that, while you're homesteading. You can do that while you're at the range or tactically training. You can do that, working with these young people and helping them to teach them self-efficacy and self-confidence and self-respect and honor and self-defense, right? All of these aspects
Mhm.
in regards to that. So whatever you do well, the false narrative can't last if you exist, unless you in a space where you do what you do, but then you doing other stuff. You understand what I'm saying? You doing other stuff. So they're like, oh, he like he a good storyteller, but he a degenerate also. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
telling stories, so we can move away from the narrative. So when you hear story, you don't automatically equate it with fiction or falsehood.
I think that that kind of like, so in my perspective, when it comes to what it is that you're saying about, you could be a leader, do these things, but in my perspective, like all great lights have shadows. I don't think that should take away from somebody's light. That's a sense of duality that comes with it. A lot of our great artists, a lot of our great musicians, they struggle with drug abuse. You know what I'm saying? They struggle with parenting. You let their kids tell the story, like, as much as I admire my parent for, the milestones they created for the community, they wasn't really at home, or when they were at home, they were stressed out and mean, or this, that, and the third. I don't think that that should overshadow, what someone does for the community. And I think that that happens a lot too. And I think a lot of that happens because we come into this, we don't humanize these leaders enough. And I give you like a more interpersonal example is like our parents. As great as we'll see our parents, like my mom did this, my dad did that, da, 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 they don't tell you too much about their hardships. They don't tell you too much about their stressors or this, that, and the third. You get that rhetoric, it's none of your business, stay in a child's place, this, that, and the third. But it creates this sense of perfectionism when it's your turn, when it's your turn to parent, or when it's your turn to be a community leader, a community organizer, when it's your turn to be an artist. You have this idea of it's not supposed to be this hard. I'm not supposed to struggle with these certain things. I'm not supposed to, have these certain thoughts or these certain kind of desires. I'm not supposed to, want to have this sense of I want to do things for me. I'm supposed to, just be the martyr of the situation because, that's the story that's being told. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think that being able to, create a narrative that humanizes our people too, because Malcolm X is a good story. Malcolm X is a great story. His roots come from being a degenerate. You know what I'm saying? And he grew into being this phenomenal man in the community. You know what I'm saying? Like we need a Malcolm X day. You know what I'm saying? So many people like he's an immortal now. And we have this term that we use for our young men out here, these quote unquote YNs or whatever. I think that them learning more about the human side, the shadow side of some of these leaders would help influence them. Like, listen, just because these are certain things that you into, this is how you transmute that energy. You understand? Like, this man didn't stop with his stern, his strict outlook, and all these different things like that. He just learned how to transmute that energy into a movement that helped people for generations. You know what I'm saying? And you can do that too with your energy. You don't have to stay here with that. I think that that's a very important factor, especially with our young people growing up in urban neighborhoods that are dealing with constantly being promoted, drugs and alcohol and gang violence and hypersexualization and all these different things. And then it's like you're either there or you're in the area that I'm at. You're either there or you're, a Bible toter, you're heavy into Christ. Um, and then anybody in between kind of like fall out the wayside kind of situation. So, I think that those are important additives to the narrative to show a sense of wholeness and to give some inspiration to some of the spaces that these young people are at now. Um, I don't want to butcher. I want to say it was Claudette Colvin, who was the first person to sit down on a bus, which is why Rosa Parks sat on the bus to begin with. And she was a teen mom. And we have all these, we have teen mothers out here. You know what I'm saying? That's not, and instead of looking at them like, oh, well, statistics say you're most likely to have another child within the next year or two, or, you're not going to graduate from high school, or you're going to, just get a job and do the things and this, that, and the third. Why don't we show them, like, look at these individuals. They had children at a young age. They grew up in poverty. They grew up in a big family. They might have grew in abuse. They grew up in urban neighborhoods. They initially were a part of a gang. And this is who they grew to become. I think those are important aspects to add to the story. I don't know if anybody know that about me, but I was a teen mom. I had my oldest when I was 15. And it didn't stop anything. I'm still here. It motivated me to keep going and keep building and growing. And it's not intentional to be a mentor, but that's what it turned into. So I think that's important. I think that's important. I think this book is important of showing how we take back our voice and our narrative of our stories. And I like that you have the action steps in there to show people how to do so. I know that at one point you were doing the movie discussions, and do you have intentions on bringing that back? Because I seen that it was brought up in the book as well.
I think for as long as I live, sunshine, it'll never not be an instance, right? When we're not discussing films to some degree, right?
Right.
We did 40 acres, you and I, we did 40
Hmm.
acres, and 40 acres was a meaningful, necessary family discussion from the family perspective. I don't want to go too far into that because I want to speak to a couple of things that you said, and you said them wonderfully. Um, the infallibility complex that comes along with quote unquote parenthood and leadership, you know, these are the things that erode the family from inside out and erode the organizations from inside out. So, I'm the grand sheik, or I'm the imam, or I'm the pastor, or just you don't. They say you don't question God, right? When you start asking questions, you don't question God, you don't question Allah. No, fam, I'm questioning you. You understand?
Hmm.
And all I got is questions for God. So if God understands who I am, then He and her understand that I'm coming to them, as their child with questions, like you come to your parents with questions. You see what I'm saying? So when you create the infallibility complex, like you can't, like the children don't see what you do. Do as I say and not as I do type of situation.
Right.
In the child's place, children are to be seen and not heard. All that plantation parenting is going to produce slaves.
Hmm.
All that plantation parenting is going to produce slaves. So if you want slaves, if you want young Nazis running around, because not young Nazis run up on black people and kill them, not other black people. So if you want young Nazis out here weaponized in the space of self hatred and slaughtering men, women, and children on sight because they call them the ops and they think they beast and they on demon time and all this other stuff that they inundated with, keep on feeding them intravenously. I should say web travenously through the web. Can I use that? Is that a word? Web
We gonna make your word today.
web travenously, and this is what they're ingesting. This is what you're feeding them. This is the false mother. This is the matrix. When people say matrix, matrix means womb. Matrix means mother. We're not talking about our mothers. We're talking about false mothers. So when you talk about the false mothers in the womb and the umbilical cord that's feeding them intravenously, this is not the womb that created the universe. This is the womb that stole. Understand what I'm saying? So when we develop this infallibility complex, this is what we're presenting. We're presenting this through our womb and through our umbilical cord. So this false matrix is there, uh, operating as mother. So this is where you're going to. You like when somebody asks you something, you automatically picking up your phone and you asking the matrix, right? Oh, what does
Right.
such and such mean? You understand what I'm saying? You don't go to books anymore. You don't go to elders anymore. You don't seek anyone out. You seek things out. And a noun is a person, place, a thing, right? So you're seeking the things out. You're not seeking the person. You're not going to the places. You're going right to this thing right here. And it can either agree with you or disagree with you. It can either be a collaborative thing or a divisive thing. So this infallibility complex with this plantation parenting and this plantation leadership type of situation is something that's eroding. Family secrets are destroying us.
Mhm.
Family secrets are destroying us. You understand what I'm saying? The things that they talking about that they label gentle parenting are things that can save your family's life. The thing that you talk about, tough love, that can destroy your family's life, and somebody might harm you because of it, or harm somebody else's child, or go into somebody else's relationship because you prime them to be abused, and then they become abusers.
Mhm.
So they can't wait to have some children to abuse, not to rear, not to raise, not to nurture, not to guide, not to be proper examples for, just to torture them. Sunshine, if you see the amount of videos where the parents are filming the children and putting it on the internet with them being scared, with them being traumatized, with them being, berated and disrespected, and them allowing them to be disrespectful on this Black Mirror,
Mhm.
for some likes and some comments, or to go back and forth with people in the comments, or to get a YouTube check or Instagram check, or that meta, whatever it is, it's insane, right? We used to watch what was that junk? America's Funniest Home Videos.
Mhm.
And America's Funniest Home Videos became Jackass, and then all of these other things just birthed out of it. You got grown men and women running around telling people, "Oh, it's a prank." A prank? Come on. So this becomes attractive in the eyes of those who see that as a modicum of success. So everybody wants to do it. And then you have to have some of that bit in what you're doing in order to attract the eyes and the ears of the people, because that's what's in the algorithm, right? So that infallibility complex, and I keep saying and going back to it, and this plantation parenting, along with all of these things get addressed in the power of the Black family. So we don't look at the Black family as if it's a thing that's above reproach. We look at an institution that we need to return to righteously. So we have to address the trauma and the drama and the ills and the hells and all of that stuff before we can even get there. We can't sit around and call ourselves family, and then you got an idea to go get some land, and then you got 75 people in the house telling you how it ain't gonna work. This is some BS, and what you know about land, and where you gonna get the land at, and where you gonna get the money for the land, and not 75 people saying, "Oh, this is a great idea," and all of us could come up with some money to fund this land, so it's a family land. You understand what I'm saying? And, or I can
Mhm.
grow this there, or I have this particular skill to be able to build a house, or I could do the carpentry, or I could do the plumbing. Oh, I can teach at the school. Like now, you got 75 people who are invested. They invested in what you're doing versus 75 people telling you how it ain't gonna work, and I don't know about all that and this and this and this, and they're harboring those things. They're harboring those things because those things are symptoms based off of the traumatization of the family. And every time they open their mouth, somebody told them what? That's not how it works,
Mhm.
right? So that's not how it works in reality. Oh, that's a pipe dream. Oh, you'll see, and this and that, and they speak things over your life instead of speaking life,
Mhm.
offering assistance, right? And they call that tough love, and that's the way of the world, and all this old nut ass shit that they say on here. And they pass it off as if it's something that's going to be great. Like I heard somebody earlier today, I'm like, man, it's 2026, and people still advocating for the devil. let me play devil's advocate. And
Always.
that's when they think that they're doing something divine.
Right. They're
You want
not
the devil
being
to play with
righteous.
you? You want the devil, you that's who you want to advocate on your behalf? The devil? Oh, I'm good, fam. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. So these become the part and parcels in regards to, that thing, right? So I wanted to make sure that that was stressed because these are like little short pitfalls that give way to everything else. So I'll just end very quickly in regards to the movie aspect. The movie aspect is something that I took, and internalized and utilized in place of people's religious, political ideologies and all those things. Because once you get into those realms, you're looking for a fight. Ain't nobody gonna argue with you about a hip hop song or a movie. But you can use those principles that are there to be able to impart the principles that you're looking to help aid and assist somebody. Like I can talk to you about the Wiz or the Last Dragon, and you're not offended. But if I be like, oh, going to the Book of Maccabees, you be like, oh no, that ain't the Maccabees ain't even in my Bible. I got the William Tyndale, I got the Gutenberg Bible, and blah blah blah. Like you start going through all of that. And they're all
Mhm.
stories, right? They're all stories that are utilized to teach you higher principles or to equate you with higher principles of self. You know what I'm saying? Or on your path to self discovery. So I don't think I ever get away from something where somebody calls me and be like, yo, Knowledge, yo, you see that movie? Yo, yo, Knowledge, you see that TV show? Yo, I want your thoughts on it. Blah, blah, blah. I want your breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Blah, blah, blah. So I know I'm in the right field and on the right track. So I just really wanted to make sure I addressed those other things before we got into like the movie situation, because that's another realm of storytelling that'll be in the master class that's built off of this volume.
Awesome. Also, there's a master class coming.
Definitely, Nas, Slick, Rick, and Ghostface ain't got a monopoly on storytelling. You understand? But they do a great job. They do a great job, and this is for the storytellers and for the story seekers. I saw something recently about doing a documentary, on your family
Mhm.
and guide you through the steps of, what are some of the things, and all that. And I've been in support of that, for some years. We get together, we have family functions, family reunions. We might go to some baby showers, and we definitely go into some funerals and all of that, right? So imagine when we are at these powering up sessions and we're having discourse and we're sharing those things. Those are things like they used to have. We used to have the home movies of everything. You understand? Like they had 6,000 photo albums, right? Now these things come from a place of genetic memory because there were so many of us who transitioned very young, and you want to remember them as they were, not as you might have seen them in that place. And then another thing, you might forget things from your own faculties, right? So now you can
Mhm.
always go back and remember, well, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? It's like total recall. Music does the same thing. And in the movies, they do sort of a similar thing in that regard. So, this master class is for you to master this art of telling your own story, however you do it. If you're a singer, if you're a dancer, whatever your offering is to the world, breaking it down and showing the path and the journey and then how others can glean from that path and the journey. It's another space to be able to deal with that from that perspective. So yeah, master class is coming in addition to this.
That's exciting. And for those of you guys who don't know, uh, these books they come with music being played on the books. And I ain't gonna say nothing, but I'm gonna say something because I think it's mad crazy how you had volume 4 and 5 being revolutionary people and warriors, and I ain't hear a lick of juju music for gentrified. But you know what? It's cool. How did you pick the how do you
Yo,
pick the music
I,
that you picked for
I
the book?
had I had my own juju music that I had in mind, right? And I did
Uh-huh.
have juju music in mind, and juju music will be a part, with your permission, of the docu series that I'm working on, Voices of the Diaspora. The docu series. So the docu series, the web series, you know, those spaces you need music, right? And what's a better song than juju music? You know what I'm saying? For the gentrifiers. You understand what I'm saying? Like they're soundtracks, right? So let me go back real quick. That's an amazing question. And I think you and one other person are the only people that asked about how did you select the music, right? And everything is intentional. Nothing was haphazard.
Believe
So
it.
the music for volume 1 was Mansa Musa Jules. We talking about entrepreneurs and all that, blah 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 blah. And you don't want to hear. I'm not the biggest Mansa Musa fan, but I love the song that my brothers from United Front made, Mansa Musa Jules. You understand what I'm saying? So I want you in that mind frame. I want you to hear something you recognize. I want you to see something you recognize. And then I want you to hear about it in a manner that's disruptive, right? In order for something to happen, a space of disruption, it doesn't come from comfortability. It comes from you being uncomfortable, right? uh, this is crazy, right? She said in the Matrix, she said, change always is. She
Right.
said change always is, right? It's something radical. It's not something that's done and people not looking at you and thanking you for change until shit change. And then they'll be like, oh, man. Then they'll be looking for somebody to give the credit to. So I wanted you to be able to hear something that's not degrading you, not disrespecting you, not calling you the N word and the V word, all of these berations and want something great to come out of it. I wanted you to be able to hear something sonically that can charge up those cells in your body to eradicate the somatic death that happens when you no longer look to yourself in any regard other than degenerate. You see what I'm saying? There's folks that say, I'm gonna be an N-word for life. That's your goal. Like that's your highest space of elevation. And I can't blame them because those who claim to be divine, they're calling them the N-word too. You understand what I'm saying? They're calling themselves the N word. I'm a real N word and blah, blah. You understand? Like, so from the religious folks, the spiritual folks, the vegan folks, the alkaline folks, I was like, yo, what is up with this N word epidemic where, right? That's another book, another part of the docu-series where you're inundated so much like, where did this come from? Like, why is this the thing that's the first thing? That's default programming. You understand what I'm saying? We get into it, you be like, F you N word. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, oh, y'all oh, y'all FBA N words, y'all pretendian N words, y'all Pan African N words, like y'all vegan N words. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all meat eating N words, like this epidemic and this infestation. I was like, this is this truly how you see yourself? Or is this something that's programmed for? Like, you can put it in there and program somebody to respond in a way that's vitriol and then use the same word as a term of endearment. Like, nah, I'm saying, yo, sunshine, that's my N word, yo. Y'all can't be messing with her son. You know what I'm saying? Like, blah, blah, blah. Then soon I fall out, like, I ain't never trust that N word in the first place. Wait a minute, right? And I'm honing in on this on purpose because these are things that become programmable, right? So if you hear
Mhm.
somebody you respect, Tupac or Biggie or any of your list of your entertainers or your artists or whomever it is, and so or somebody in your family, right? Somebody in your family. I go back through that psychosis. I guess we'll say that for another time, but I really want to, kind of look at that and say, look, it's not necessary for you to listen to a dope song, a hip hop song, and it fill your entire being up and you be degraded at the same time. You understand what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
that space in regards to the choice, this entrepreneurship sort of venture. I wanted you in the mind. And be like, all right, man, so Musa did it. I can do it. You understand what I'm saying? Then I give you some man, some Musa Jews from United Front. They're not playing no games, right? So for volume two, my relationship with Killer Priest, as you know, is very deep. And his mother transitioned while I was writing the book.
Mhm.
So when I finally spoke to him and we had our discourse, by sound over the phone, I was like, I need your permission to use this song called Mother for this volume. So when you volume two, the first thing you hear, you're talking about 100 like women who changed the world, right? I want you in the mind of Mother. I want you in the mind of Mother. So you hear his mother's voice leaving a message on his answering machine, making sure her son is okay. So the mother and son, the Madonna and child relationship being reconnected via the sound. Okay, it's your mother. I'm just calling to make sure you got home safe, son. You understand what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
that. We don't have that regard anymore. We don't have the regard where he calling like your mom made it home safe, yo, I'm good. Or that we look at each other from a familial perspective. That's no longer wholesome, right? We got issues in that department. So how do you then honor thy mother and thy father, right? How then do you say paradise is at the feet of our mothers, and we could allow a society to erode to the point where mother is being relegated to birthing person, like there's somebody else on the planet. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to create a volume dedicated to my mother and every other mother, and those ones who are, coming into motherhood, who might have an inkling in their mind, who are coming into sisterhood, who are coming into aunthood, into niecehood. You understand what I'm saying? Like that space of equipping yourself with the imagery and the regard, right? The old folks, we old now. So the old folks say, what happened to all of the love songs? You ain't singing to women no more, like fam. You understand what I'm saying? Like a lot of those things they're missing, right? You ain't crying, you ain't talking about all the things you're gonna do before you get home as soon as you get home from work. You understand like what's happening, right? So
Right.
there's no longer a regard for mother. And when there's no longer a regard for mother, there's no longer a regard for anyone or anything in society. We have to know that, right? So if y'all are allowing these Zionists and these corporatists to be out here running around and allowing this level of disregard and disrespect, relegating mother to birthing person, you have, and then you have no understanding of why the society is around you, bugging. You're bugging, right? So, that wisdom that is she, that 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 part that nothing gets created without all of these other aspects to shine and to elevate that and to celebrate her. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at my mother while I'm writing. I'm looking at my mother while I'm speaking. I'm looking at the mothers and what it means. Like, you know, when you lose mother in the physical world, nothing is the same
Mhm.
because that was your doorway into the physical world. That was
Mhm.
your canal. That was your portal. That was your gateway. That was your mothership. Shout out to Killer Free. So, in that volume, that's the discussion that's had in that regard. And then in the end, we're talking about the album Mother. You understand what I'm saying? We're talking about his album. Like in the midst of his pain and in the midst of his trials and tribulations with losing his old earth, he transmuted it in a manner that gave us who had lost our mothers in the physical world solace. You know what I'm saying? So that was something, in that space of high regard. Now, volume three and volume four, like you said, they're revolutionary. And, I know some, you know, get down revolutionaries who produced their revolutionary music. And I wanted to give them the credence because of the imagery that was chosen in the volumes. I needed, when you turn in the page and you seeing, Dr. Collin and, you know, Baba Steve Coker, peace and blessings be upon them both. When you're seeing Queen and Zinger, you understand what I'm saying? When you see them, the soundtrack is going along with it. Like I want you to, be able to go tear something up. You understand what I'm saying? I want you to be able to go tear something up. So, you know, uh, Juju music is in that lane. It's in that vein. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like I gotta make sure, I make my next step, my best step in regards to what's chosen, because having express permission is one thing. You see what I'm saying? But guessing it's gonna be alright is another thing. So in the space of legality, I got everybody's permission to be able to utilize their songs in these books, right? So there are songs in there and then videos. So not just hearing something audibly, visually seeing something at the end of each book. At the end of each book, there's something in regards to something that complements the song in the book. So the themes for all of the books, produce the songs and the video and the imagery that's there. So, there's a lot of time and effort that was utilized in that regard to be intentional, right? Uh, in the gratitude and the celebration and the elevation that goes through the volumes. Because volume 1 through 5, someone else illustrated, my brother D Banks of D Banks Designs, but 6 through 9, and then these other 4 independent volumes that are there. I did every bit of it from start to finish. So like there was a lesson that I was able to learn along that way in regards to being self-sufficient. And the more you are involved in your story process, that became something that you don't have to outsource. You know? So that's a little bit of my choice for the music, those things that was readily available, and music from people who had, you know in essence, have the a cultural impact in regards to the music that they create and the work that they do. You know, sort of like a shout out from Let's Nobodies. You understand what I'm saying? So,
No, I really did it. I do enjoy the music choices that you did have for the books. Um, and for those of you guys who are just coming in, this is Knowledge Born Allah. He is the author of the Voices of Diaspora's books. And some of going through the titles, we got volume 1, which is all about entrepreneurship. Volume 2 goes over women's stories, her stories. I believe 100 women are addressed in this book. Book 3 is about the revolutionary leaders, which he spoke on, and book 4 is also about revolutionary leaders, but we get into more so the warriors, and the Black liberators. Book 5 is Black innovators, who transform STEAM, and we get into pioneers, leaders in engineering, visionaries in the arts, and trailblazers in mathematics here. Book 6 is Reclaiming Our Narrative to Empower Black Minds. Some of the chapters here is social media as a tool for activism, action steps for aspiring Black storytellers, historical misrepresent. Okay, that was the book I was referring to, book 6 too. We also get into some action steps about poor media outlets and community discussions, things of that nature. Then we have Nameless to Knowledge, and that book has chapters of like Pillars of Purpose, The Voice of the Village, Mastery in Motion. Um, then we get into the power of the Black family. And some of those chapters include Roots and Rhythm, Black family in a historical perspective, the diasporic threads connecting the global African family, customs and traditions from the continent, um, the wounds of displacement. That's that's a really good read too. That one. They're all good reads, but that one stuck out a lot. Then we get into volume 7, Black educators and scholars. Um, we get into their stories. Book 8 is Voices of the Diaspora Beyond the Battlefield. Here we get into chapters such as Fire Against Empire, Resistance Across the Continents, Philosophers and Thought Warriors, which is really fly because usually when we hear about philosophers and people who share their thoughts, we usually think about, the Greeks that got their knowledge from the Cometians and kind of regurgitated it to their own people, this, that, and the third, and now it's all up in our education system. Not too often do we get into the philosophers of our own people that look like us. So I feel like that's very important to get into. Um, Journey to the ice and unknown, modern trailblazers, ancient strength and modern resistance. Then we get into book 9, which is what you see here, mastering the craft and telling your own Black story. Um, and then was this after 9? You done did so many. We got Secure the Legacy after that. And Secure the Legacy is Black family tactical preparedness for urban and rural survival, which is a very important one too. This one is big on call to action, on how to prepare yourself and your family. Um, especially in the realms of protection, being on the battlefield, always being attacked in some type of way, shape, form, every time we find ourselves building ourselves up, and I think that that's something that we should work on, especially like when we look at historically, the things that our people have created, have built upon the Black Wall Streets all over America is a big one, as well as prior to having the Black Wall Streets, we always had like our own community, our tribes, things of that nature. And I won't say we didn't do a good job of protecting it. However, a lot of the attacks we were unprepared for. You know what I'm saying? And then we got into this period where we wanted to speak on kumbaya, and you kind of got duped into some things with that. And we're not building in a kumbaya kind of environment. Even putting people aside, we also got to think about the elements, out here too. It's not always just people on people. It's also can be the environment, different things that have been put in place. I know the data centers is a big thing now. And all the, for my agriculturalists out there, being mindful where we garden our food at and stuff like that because of all the warehouses and, just different things that's being put in our air, our water, and our soil. And we're not thinking too much of it, and it's going into our crops and we're eating it. Just things like that to put into consideration as well when we're building our things amongst our community. And last but certainly not least, we have the Sankofa effect, the lessons from Black movements across centuries. And some of those chapters include religious movements, political movements, spiritual movements, revolutionary movements, the intersection of these movements, and the challenges and resilience. And that's also a very important read to inspire you, because we are indeed still in movement. Um, I think that us being able to record things on our phone has transformed a lot of things. It's made people, behave a certain kind of way because they know that they're being watched. And it's very interesting to see that because, Hollywood has always demonized these devices as, oh, be careful because you're always being watched. We have films like Eagle Eye, things like that. And my personal opinion on that is a lot of that was created with the intentions of, if we fear it, if we think that it's something that's against us or whatever, what have you, we're less likely to utilize those tools to our benefit. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's what a lot of these, things on with technology has been created to do, try to deter us from using it. People sharing their stories, especially like their family, their lineage, their traumas and trials. It was always like, stop telling your stuff on the internet. You have these figures in place that are like shaming people from sharing their truths on the internet. That's not nobody's business, this, that, and the third. But these are stories that have to be told because you never know who's silently going through these things and needed to see or hear that. You know what I'm saying? Um, and um, and if we don't tell our stories, somebody's going to tell them for us. you know. And in the looking at pictures of families and communities and clubs and businesses and Wall Street, and we see these people in these pictures, and we look at them and they're just so beautiful and they look so powerful, and they got these beautiful shimmer dresses on and the fur coats and the suits on with the hat and the feather and everything, and we see these people, and we don't hear their stories as individuals that brought them to being able to take that picture together. You know what I'm saying? Or what happened after that flash went off? Where did they go? Where were their respective places? Where did they walk off to after they got done saying cheese? Those stories are important because, like I said, they humanize the people. These, and like I said, there is a lot of entities that are pushing people away from sharing their stories on these platforms, pushing people away from utilizing their cameras and spaces, to record their experiences and things. But, they keep saying the revolution will not be televised, but it will. And we're not going to keep repeating that rhetoric that we going to suffer in silence and nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to hear it. Because, the next time you chop the tree down in the forest, somebody is going to be there to see and hear it. We're not going to question whether or not it happened, you know what I'm saying, the way it has been in the past. Did that really happen? Because we didn't see it or hear it. We're not doing that. We're not settling for that. That's not going to keep being the thing here. You did see it. You did hear it. Everybody did. And I love that. And I love your contribution to that, from your books to your podcast, to, how you travel and you document everything. And, you've been such a support to the different artists and the community builders and the intellectuals and the educators, and bringing them together on your platform, and traveling around to meet these people and support these people in the different ways that you have been doing. And you deserve like ultimate flowers. I think flowers is, I don't even know a word strong enough in this moment. But thank you so much for what you do and what you spend your time doing, and for walking in your purpose, because I know, and I'm sure many people who are watching know how difficult that is to do. It's not an easy journey. Sometimes it feels thankless, and sometimes it feels like, the people that's supposed to be there to lift you up is attacking you. You know what I'm saying? And been there, did that. Been there, did that, definitely. And so, thank you for keep pushing on. Thank you for, not allowing that to get in the way of what it is that you're supposed to do here. Why God put you here. Why did, all our ancestors align in the way that they aligned for you to be here? How you are, who you are. It's so important. It's so important. You're so important. And so, in these last few minutes, I just want you to, let everybody know how we can support you in your movement. If there's anything else you got going on that you want us to know about, us to be ready for, let us know. And for those of you guys who haven't already done so, please make sure you guys share this video. Let people know that these books exist. Make sure y'all follow Knowledge Born Allah on all, social media platforms. He's constantly posting these books, and purchase them, especially for your babies, your nieces, your nephews, your grandkids. You know, every day is Black History Day. These are wonderful, wonderful books. These are, even if you don't have any children, these are really good think pieces to sit around a table with your peoples, with your peers, to read and get into the action steps and start community building and things like that. Like, these are important pieces and they need to be in heavy rotation. I'll let you have the floor, Knowledge, and you let us know what we can do to further support your movement.
Buy the books. Buy the books, gift them, however it goes. If y'all need to bootleg them, bootleg them. Whatever y'all need to do in order to get the word out, get the word out. This is where we came from. This isn't a venture that is half-hearted. Um, A. Rashid, shout out to A. Rashid. I heard him one day in a question and answer session, and they said, "What about the people who bootleg, who bootleg the DVDs and make money off of them?" And I thought that he was going to answer it like a Brooklyn night. You understand what I'm saying? Like, he answered it like a scholar and a sage. He said, "Bootleggers got me to Germany." You know, I thought I'll share that. I thought that I was getting those DVDs from him directly initially, and it was from another entity who was making it available. I was overseas. I was in, combat zone, so I was just getting those, that I saw, and then I started getting them directly from him. So had I not got those from this other source, I wouldn't have reached out to him and brought him to Germany, right? So him, the Black Dot, True Master, my Lord, uh, may Allah be pleased with her and her work. And, she continues to still work around the globe. And, that DVD at the time was one of the most requested DVDs from Black Dot out of all of the work that he's done. So, you know, whatever it takes to get the word out. Like I look at the numbers, right? You know, for one of the volumes is at like 1,000 views. 1,000 people ain't buy it. You understand what I'm saying? 1,000 people didn't buy it, but 1,000 people have seen one of the volumes. And the numbers are in the hundreds in regards to some of the other volumes. So if you are inclined to want to invest in the space where you have something that you've created and it's curated for you with intention and time and effort. If you don't have the articulation, or you do, these are third party tools that can be utilized to help realign you with those aspects of you that are righteous for you, for your family, young and old, anybody, anywhere. You understand? Like you can read these books to your children, like storybooks, whatever the case may be in that regard. But if you're a political organization, if you're a homeschooler, homeschooling network, you're looking for something to add to your curriculum, please reach out. We can work something out. For all of the homeschoolers, all of the educators out, reach out. We can work something out. We can make something happen. You understand what I'm saying in regards to it? There are a couple of, you know, outlets out there and a couple of organizations that have utilized this book, for their political organization and for their family organizations. You see what I'm saying? So y'all heard from Sunshine Monet L and all of her majesty that, she utilizes this, with her children. You understand what I'm saying? What better, kudos could I get ever? One of the brothers, uh, one of the brothers out in Newark, right? He's one of my airlights, and he was like, "Yo, volume 2, I was reading it to my daughter. Come on, come on, like yesterday. You understand what I'm saying?" He said, "Yo, I was reading volume 2 to my daughter." You understand? Like you cannot put a dollar amount on it. For the other work that I'm looking to do, the filming and time and the travel and all of those things, you know, they take an investment, right? But I'm vested. You understand what I'm saying? I have a audacious goal in mind to tell 1 million Black stories from around the globe, and I'm going to do it. So that's a goal, an aim, and an objective to for whatever it is. And when you see it, this is what you're contributing to. So if you see something where I'm asking people to get the books, if you see a GoFundMe or whatever the case may be, like you can see the work. It's not a scam. Okay, I didn't tell Sunshine Monet L to buy these books, and then she opened it up, and it's a middle finger. You understand what I'm saying? Like I know it's a lot of charlatans and schemers and scammers out here, but I really, you know, dedicated my life to showing and telling Black people's story and showing and proving that Black people's story is great as is. I don't have to put a dress on. You ain't got to put a dress on, brother. You understand what I'm saying? You ain't got to do all of this extra stuff that you see out here. You're amazing just the way you are. You were born on purpose for a purpose, and the world is in need of your story. In need of your blood, your sweat, your tears, your sacrifice, your life, your all of those things, your gifts, your talents, those things that come to you and flow to you effortlessly. So this is one of the greatest opportunities in life, despite all of the calamity that's going on, to be able to present yourself properly and share the stories. I'm telling you, time in the physical world is short, and you can wish that you had something as an archive to go back through. Like when I did that event with my mother in Germany, I didn't think that 3 months later she would return. Wasn't even 3 months. 3 months later, like November 2008, she was there in Germany. In February 5th, I'm at her funeral, 2009. So you have to remember that those loved ones that you have that are here that you might be at odds with at a moment because of something on the internet or some kind of ideology that you're holding on or some newfound path to salvation you got or some diet that you on. You understand what I'm saying? Like you might be at odds with them for that, but I'm telling you, like the time that you have in the physical world is precious. Manage it wisely, utilize it wisely, circulate those gifts that come from you. And then I promise if you want to live forever, it'll be that way. You know, Malcolm X just turned 100 last year. He'll be 101 this year, May 19th. We got him for 39 years of his life. His children are still alive. They got children. Reach out to them. See their greatness, not because their parents were, because of who they are. You see what I'm saying? So we got 39 years on the planet from this one, 39 years on the planet for this one, 24 years for this one, 25 years for this one. Make the most of the time that you have and utilize that time in becoming the best version of yourself and then chronicling and documenting your journey. Somebody's in need of that story. So, Sunshine Monreal, thank you for this time. Y'all can get the books from me directly. Hold on, is the Cash App thing up here? The Cash App thing is Knowledge Won't Allow. Or you can email me, duknowledgeradio@gmail.com and say, hey, I saw you on Cosmic Nobodies Conversations, with the God Sunshine on the air, and I need them books, fam. You understand what I'm saying? I need them books, fam. Or I want to share my story with you, wherever you are. Wherever you are on the planet, I will find a way to you, or I'll find a way to get that story from you. Because that audacious goal is still there. So the docu series, the web series, the master class, the books. I'm not done writing books. I still have 5 physical print books that I owe to do, and the docu series to accompany them. So we're just continuing to move, into work, and I could be found at Student Knowledge Radio or Knowledge Won't Allow on the social medias, on the socials. You understand what I'm saying? I see this mug up there, and more from Voices of the Diaspora on every level. And thank you for this platform. I love it here. And that's what you say when you be over on Do Knowledge. I love it here. You understand what I'm saying? So I
Yeah,
love it here. Okay.
always
This is
was.
this is for the less nobodies, right? And shout out to you for always creating a space for those who might get looked over. You know what I'm saying? For the healers, the light workers, folks need to be replenished. They need to be rejuvenated. They need to be celebrated. You understand? Otherwise, it becomes something that's in vain, right? So y'all support this platform and run it up. And she's a mastermind. So if you need a reading of any kind, she got it. You understand what I'm saying? Reading of any kind, she got it. If you need a host or a hostess of any kind, she got it. If you need some poetry, she got it. If you need some bars, she got it. If you need some insight into your life, she got it. If you need a wonderful counselor, she got it. So it's a myriad of things that she does, and she's just dope. You know what I'm saying? She's just dope. You know what I mean? Thank you for the platform. Again, honest to you, honest to your family. I love you in real life and on the internet, and that's rare. You understand what I'm saying? Because these folks, the internet stuff, I don't know about that. So, yeah, honest.
I appreciate you, knowledge. I love you truly and dearly, not just on the internet either, which is a big deal. Very much is so. Thank y'all for everybody that's tuning in. Again, make sure y'all share, let people know that this book exists, that this God exists. And, the best way y'all can support is to share these stories. Buy the book, let people know how they can buy the book, share these stories at your community events, family table, bedtime story, all of that, because, these stories are very important. The action steps in here are phenomenal and they are essential. They are necessities for your everyday living. I'm telling you, these books are definitely a game and a life changer. Again, you guys, if anybody's interested in being a Cosmic Nobodies conversation, you can hit me up, Sunshine Monet L, on all social medias or lessnobodies@gmail.com for your interview. And I'ma see y'all out. Happy day of knowledge born, y'all. With knowledge born, we out here. Peace, peace.